the biggest winners and the biggest losers according to the Brickyard podcast. I turned on the Brickyard podcast and they were like, wow, what a big loser that team was. But we
Yeah.
like to start it. Should we just go and rip the teams right away, or should we start a little bit positive because we have a bunch of negativity coming up with our next few segments?
Yeah, you know what? Let's be positive first. I'm going to hold off on the dark horse, the most obvious winner, because I mean you are bearing their skin today.
Yeah.
But for winners, I'm actually going to put we'll put the Eagles here. That's the obvious one. They got Saquon Barkley. They replaced DeAndre Swift with Saquon. He gets paid finally. And with that offensive line, with the weapons there, with the amount of potential that the Eagles have, as long as they don't fall flat on their face like they did last year for the second half of the season, then this team should be right in the mix with the 49ers, with a team like the Lions, like everybody else, the Packers as well. So I think making that big addition as well, I think that they're going to be in a great position. I'm not going to mention the obvious one here because you have that next one there. All the moves that this next team had.
Yeah, the Houston Texans, CJ Stroud, the Stroud boys themselves went out there and they went out and signed Danielle Hunter on the edge, who was top 5 in sacks, defensive player of the year candidate. And then you pair him with Will Anderson Jr., who was right up there with TJ Watt and Micah Parsons as far as pressure rate percentage. At one point, he was leading the league. He was in the playoffs with a hurt ankle, still out there making plays. And then they open up that bankroll. You're signing players on the defensive side. They basically signed an entirely new defense. So now all they need to do is focus on the offensive side of the ball in the draft. And you already have some nice pieces to go along with CJ Stroud there. You went ahead and you re-signed your tight end on offense and you acquired Joe Mixon. So now you can kind of figure out Joe Mixon, Damian Pierce, maybe you draft a running back, but you can focus on the offensive line in the draft. You can focus on adding another receiver to go along with Tank Bell on offense. So as far as the Texans, you're able to open up that bankroll, spread it around, unlike another team in your division who had even more cap space, but they missed out on Danielle Hunter, missed out on some other key signings that you're able to steal away from the Indianapolis Colts, steal away from the Titans, and steal away from the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the fact that they are able to spend their money even better than those teams set themselves up for one of the greatest runs in NFL history coming to you in the 2025 NFL playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another winner of mine, this is kind of a cheat because it's 4 teams, but I'm going to say the AFC North. The AFC North, which is one of the best divisions already in the NFL. The Ravens got Derrick Henry. The Bengals, they bolstered up their team as well. They got Zach Moss, which I think is going to help them a lot. Moving on from Joe Mixon, getting some of the older people out of there. They got Geno Stone as well. And then also we had the Steelers getting off of Kenny Pickett. He wasn't working out. And unlike a lot of teams where they're going to try to feel it out, cut their ties with him after 2 years, didn't waste around. And then they got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, who are both low risk, high return kind of players, which is why the Steelers are historically as great as they are. And then also getting Patrick Queen. And then for the Browns, they went out and got their franchise guy in Jameis Winston. So it worked out well for them.
Yeah, the Browns also got their franchise guy, Jameis Winston. You thought you could just slip that in there and we wouldn't notice? He's not the franchise guy for them. We're not going to be out here eating W's. What he will be doing is rapping to players on the sideline, getting everyone hyped up for the game. But yeah, right. I agree with you because I was thinking, like, I want to add the Steelers. I want to add the Ravens. I want to add the Bengals. So the fact that you added that AFC North, definitely glad that you did that because I feel like all of those teams did win this offseason. So congratulations to the AFC North. And then my team I'm going to go with was a team that I wasn't very optimistic on going into the offseason just because they had a lot of cap issues. What are they going to do with Tua? But the Miami Dolphins, you lose Christian Wilkins, but you pretty much sign an entire defense on your end. And defense was your weakness last year, but you're able to go out there, get Neville Gilmore, sign Jonathan Harris, you get Benito Jones, you get Jordan Brooks, you get Anthony Walker, you get Kendall Fuller, you resign Nick Needham, and then you get Jordan Poyer in your secondary, who's still an excellent player, and then you add some running back depth. You get Jonnu Smith at tight end just for some depth there, and then you sign Jack Driscoll, re-sign Robert Jones, re-sign Isaiah Wynn on the offensive line. Then you sign Aaron Brewer, and you get Shaq Barrett and you still have Jalen Ramsey. You still have Melvin Gordon, who's coming
Hmm.
back for you on defense. You still have
Yeah.
Bradley Chubb, who's coming back. And then you fill in all of those holes around them. And you have a draft when you don't need to stop focusing on offense because you don't need anymore. You have Tyreek Hill, you have Jalen Waddle there, and then you have Devon A-Train who's coming out of the field in the backfield. Really, all you need on offense is a quarterback. But yeah, go ahead, draft some more players on defense. So I think surprisingly, a winner of free agency was the Miami Dolphins, just because I had no optimism for them at all, but ended up doing a fantastic job. Now they'll
Yeah.
have a new defensive coordinator as well, so I'm actually bullish on the Dolphins.
Yeah. Now I think it's time we get negative. We talk about the teams. We talked about the winners, whether it be the Texans, the Dolphins, the AFC North at large. Some of the losers, and I think the obvious one in here is the Dallas Cowboys. Not only did everybody in your division get better, with the Giants getting Brian Burns, with the Eagles getting Saquon, and the Commanders basically filling out their defense with Frankie Louvu and some of the other guys signing Austin Eckler as well. But then also, you lost Tyron Smith, who is a historically great tackle for you, probably a top
Yeah.
5 tackle of all time. And then you had all these allegations happening with Dak. You got to figure out who to sign. And you took a step back. You lost some receiver depth with Michael Gallup as well. This is a team that one of the only teams in the NFL who didn't really sign any major people. The Cowboys, biggest loser, especially after what we saw this past playoff performance or
Yeah.
lack thereof. This is a team, as I mentioned, I think they're going to be one of the most disappointing teams next year, and this offseason is just the beginning of it.
Yeah, it's not only that. You go through the coaching staff and you're like, oh, Dan Quinn is gone. Everyone's favorite coach on that roster and on the staff there. And then you brought back Mike McCarthy. It's like, what were you thinking? You brought back Mike McCarthy, of all people, who the Packers said was too outdated. If Green Bay is saying this guy is too outdated for the modern day NFL, what the fuck were you thinking, first of all, when you signed him, and then you brought him back after losing 48-16 to the team he previously faced, and then you're also going to face the Packers year in and year out in the playoffs, and no head coach has ever beat a team that he previously coached for in the playoffs and went on to win a Super Bowl. It's like, what were you thinking, first of all, there? And then you have Dak Prescott, who picks up an allegation. We're not going to talk about that because we don't have all the facts. I am not a legal expert, and, you know, it's Dak Prescott, so we'll see what happens. I don't know if she's right. I don't know if he's right. I don't know if he's wrong. Not really my wheelhouse there. But then you get rid of Michael Gallup as well, who's going to be a loss. You lose some wide receiver depth. So you are screwed as far as cap wise, but a team who wasn't screwed as far as the cap and did absolutely nothing. The New England Patriots were like, it's Belichick. He's the problem. It's not me. And then you have this whole dynasty series, which Patriots fans are like, they're trying to smear a franchise and just they're trying to destroy our family name with the dynasty on Apple TV. I haven't watched it yet, but a lot of Patriots fans not happy about it, especially the people on the radio who talk about the team. And then what happens again? You pinch pennies and miss out on a premier wide receiver, not once, but twice, to the same fucking team. The same team, the Titans, 2 years in a row, take away your wide receiver. They take Mike Vrabel away from you, who should have been Bill Belichick's successor. And then you hire a new head coach there, and then you re-sign Hunter Henry is your big re-signing, and then you bring back Jalen Reagor. Like, how are you supposed to get excited about this team? It's not only do you still need a wide receiver, not only do you know this team can't draft a wide receiver, but you also need a new quarterback on this team. So now with that third round pick, you're even more exponentially screwed, because if you're able to bring in someone like Calvin Ridley and then pick up a good second round wide receiver, now you're like, okay, well, we can't draft wide receivers. So if we take a quarterback, we could miss at the third overall pick, because that's a very iffy position to take a quarterback at in the top 3, because usually 1 or 2 out of the 3 quarterbacks is a bust historically. And then also, we can't draft wide receivers historically. What the hell are we doing here in New England? Because you had you had one of the biggest pocketbooks you could have opened up, and now all the stuff about Bill Belichick not wanting to spend money. It's like, okay, no, it's not Bill Belichick who didn't want to spend money. He had to deal with Robert Kraft now, who didn't want to spend money.
Yeah, and after seeing those report cards too and some of the reactions from there, I don't know. I'm not liking what they're doing. They also aren't changing the culture, which is something that when you get rid of a head coach you want to do,
Yeah.
you're still doing the same old Patriots things. I'm not in love with it. At this point, I'm leaning sign and draft Marvin Harrison with that third overall pick. At least then he's the only surefire bet wide receiver in that draft, and you can get him at 3. At this point, just get Marvin Harrison and build around him at that point.
Is there such thing as a surefire bet with the Patriots though? Like honestly.
That's what I'm saying. But this guy, he's got the DNA. He looks the best. He's the best prospect since Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
He's the only one where I'm like, I don't think they can somehow screw this up unless if they're actually cursed in the first play he tears his ACL. That's the only way. And God, hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But that's my only bet there. At this point, don't ruin another quarterback's life. Just let him go.
Yeah. I would rather see Marvin Harrison with Kyler Murray, but that's just me.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I pray to God he doesn't go to the Patriots just for the sake of his career. But let's each do another team here.
My number one loser outside of this team. This one I feel bad for because they were in absolute cap hell, but they lost basically their entire defense, and I don't know how they recover in the draft here. The Bills, the poor Bills. I mean, this is a team. They're franchise. The fans they love them so hard. They go through tables for them literally, but losing Tre'Davious White, losing Jordan Poyer, losing friend of the show Gabe Davis as well. I mean, those are some tough shoes to fill. So I definitely think that they will be taking a step back next year, especially with the Dolphins maintaining themselves and the Jets getting Aaron Rodgers back. I think the Bills have a chance to finish third in that division.
Yeah, the Bills definitely have a chance to finish third in that division, unless the CIA doesn't have a great track record with Kennedy, so we could potentially see President Rogers if he gets elected there. But I'm gonna go with my team here, the Denver Broncos. Because you screwed yourselves royally. Because anytime someone does something in the NFL and it works, everyone's like, oh, I want to try doing that. And then we saw that materialize itself with Russell Wilson with Deshaun Watson. They're like, all you need to do is trade for a quarterback, and then you'll automatically go there and win the Super Bowl if you have a team in place. Well, what the Broncos didn't realize is they didn't have the team in place because their wide receivers were Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, who were just mediocre. They were fine. Cortland Sutton is a very, 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 very probably the best 2 you could get. Should he be your number 1 on a Super Bowl team? Absolutely not. And then with Russell Wilson's contract, you're absolutely screwed as far as the cap. And then you have to go out there, draft a quarterback this year, which you are really not in a position to do, and go out there and get a great quarterback. And then just the arrogance of Sean Payton when he first came in there, the way he was running it like a mafia organization, taking any chance he could get to undermine Russell Wilson was like, I get it. You don't like Russell Wilson. We all get that. The fact that he forced the ultimatum on him, they're basically trying to save money. And he was like, I would be shocked if we don't make the playoffs this year. Really? You would be shocked if you don't make the playoffs this year? And then you're giving players ultimatums to help yourselves miss the playoffs? And then you're talking about how we shouldn't start rebuilding a team by tanking. I don't believe in that. But I want Russell Wilson to sit on the bench to save money? Excuse me? Excuse me, because Russell Wilson is still better than Jarrett Stidham. We know that for sure.
That is true.
So the fact that you're like, oh, we don't tank, but unless it's convenient financially, we'll tank. But as far as the press is concerned, we won't tank. It's like, give me a break. Now you're gone, another wide receiver. You didn't have money to sign anyone. Oh, you got Cody Barkin. I'm shaking in my boots right now. But the Broncos, will they be the worst team next year? No. But could they be the worst team in their division?
Easily.
That wasn't the goal with Sean Payton, and he now might be with Jim Harbaugh there, Andy Reid there. We'll see what Antonio Pierce turns into. You could also be the worst coach in your division in a couple years.